Good morning, Trinity family. This morning, I was reading through Acts, and I've been thinking a lot about Pastor Dave's recent sermon series on, thinking about what you think about and changing the way that you think in order to change the way that you act. And I know personally, in I've struggled to change my own behaviors and my own habits. Habits form over a long time, and bad ones especially seem to be hard to break. But those habits didn't form overnight. They took time to develop into your regular pattern of acting. So, as Pastor Dave is talking about changing the way we think, that was a big one for me. Start with what's in your head, because what is in your head, what is in your heart, is ultimately going to determine the way that I behave. But that's not always the easiest. And he has said several times, and it really stuck out to me, that the way that you're going to get that change in your head, and then of course that leads to the change in your behavior, is through daily habits. The daily habit of spending time in the Bible and praying and things like that. And as I was reading through Acts, I was struck by that same message. So, right at the beginning of Acts, in Acts chapter 1, Jesus, after his resurrection, spends some time with the disciples, teaching them the last few things he has to teach them before he ascends back into heaven. Then the disciples choose a replacement for Judas. And then right after that, in Acts chapter 1, it says that they spent daily time in prayer, that they spent time together, and they were constantly in prayer. Moving on into chapter 2, you see the Holy Spirit come and kind of infuse the apostles and give them kind of the ability to do things. As I read through this, I was reminded that God, who you as well, I'm sure, are trying to build a relationship with, is all powerful. He has the ability to really do anything. So a lot of times when I'm trying to do everything by myself, I'm setting myself up for failure, because ultimately God is the one who has the power to do that. And by connecting to him and to his power, I can start to see these changes. And the Holy Spirit is the way that we do it. In the very beginning of Acts chapter 2, it says that the Holy Spirit they were all filled with the Holy Spirit. And one of the things that they were then able to do was speak in other tongues as the Spirit enabled them, it says. So the Spirit was giving them the power, in this case, to speak in other languages, which was very important because, of course, they were going to go spread the news of Christ to many, many other peoples. Later on in chapter 2, it also talks about them spending time with each other. It says they devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching and to fellowship, to the breaking of bread and to prayer. Later on, just a couple verses later, it says every day they continued to meet together in the temple courts. They broke bread in their homes, ate together with glad and sincere hearts, praising God and enjoying the favor of all people. So as I was reading that, the several things that hit me were, number one, via the Holy Spirit, through the Holy Spirit, I can be connected to the awesome power of God. And with that power, really, I can accomplish anything. Number two, those apostles. And these apostles were the people who had spent basically all their time for the preceding years with Jesus, studying with Jesus, being led by him. And they spent daily time together with other believers and also in prayer. And that was, a big part of, I think, leading them into that next phase of their lives where they went out to spread the good news. So that change, that connection, and that Holy Spirit is all predicated on building the habits of daily connection to God, daily time spent studying his word and praying, which is ultimately, of course, our connection, the two connections we have to God, his word and prayer. So those were two things that really stuck out to me, and it's a struggle for me I still struggle to make the daily habit of sitting down and doing my reading and my study and spending time in prayer, and as Acts says, constantly in prayer, which is even harder sometimes. But that daily habit is what will help me and hopefully help you shift my thinking and bring me more in alignment with God's values and the way that God thinks, and ultimately lead to a closer relationship with Him. Thank you.